Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Inside Golf. I'm Harry Donahue. When I say the name Joe Lunardi, what do you think of? Well, he's the ESPN bracketologist. He's also the color analyst on radio for St. Joseph's University men's basketball. We'll show you how his game is when it comes to golf. We go inside golf with Joe Lunardi, the bracketologist who over the last 20 years has missed on maybe just 25 teams. That's quite a record. Back with Joe Lunardi, next on Inside Golf. Inside Golf, presented by Destination Montco Golf. 54 courses, 300,000 yards. Check them out at montcogolf.com. By Jersey Man Magazine, it's a Jersey way of life. And Philly Man Magazine, bringing it to Broad Street. By Golf Performance Institute, GPI, better training, better athletes, better golfers. And by the Philadelphia Section PGA, experts in the game and business of golf. Take time to thank your local PGA golf professional.
When I got back from the Gulf War, I was afraid to leave my house for 5 years. Clearview Hope and Renee Powell saved my life.
When I started Clearview Hope, I wanted to do all that I could to help our nation's women military veterans.
Renee, with golf, you have empowered all of us, and we just cannot thank you enough.
The best stories end in thanks. Share your story at ThanksPGAPro.com.
The first tee teaches you golf, but they also teach you life skills.
We learn things you can use everywhere, every day.
Like how to meet people you don't know. I'm Nicholas.
It comes in handy on your first day of school.
Or interviewing for a job.
Thank you. Some of the best golf lessons have very little to do with golf. The life skills young people learn at the First Tee stay with them long after they leave. Visit thefirsttee.org to learn more.
Hi, I'm Janie. Let's play some golf.
Welcome back to Inside Golf, and we're at beautiful Lanark Country Club in Havertown with our guest of the day, Mr. Joe Lunardi. Joe, pleasure to see you.
Harry, this is tremendous.
So many times.
You got me out of the office on a beautiful day. What could be better?
I'm your savior for at least the next half hour.
One hole.
There you go. Joe, as I mentioned in the opening, you are a man of many games. Bracketology, probably most people know you around the country as ESPN's premier bracketologist. But people in Philadelphia know you as the color analyst on radio for St. Joe's Hawks basketball. You're also a vice president in charge of marketing and communications with your alma mater, and mine, by the way, St. Joseph's University.
Absolutely.
And once in a while, you fit in around the golf here at Lanark.
And this is the time of the year for that, don't you think?
We got a beautiful day. We're going to take Joe out to the scene of one of his more memorable golf shots. Happened a few years ago on the 12th of par 3 here at Lanark. If you're familiar with Lanark, you know the hole, very small green. But Joe had a hole-in-one. So, you know, we're going to try to reenact it. But first, let's turn the clock back. When did this bracketology stuff all start?
Wow. I remember telling my mom when I was in high school that I wanted to be a sports writer. And I think she thought I was joking. I wasn't.
Right.
And you grew up in the Big Five like we did. Think about the mentors, even as a student writer and editor at St. Joe's, and some of the people who were, you know, working press row in those days. You know, Bob Vitrone and Dick Weiss and people like Andy Dock and Al Schreier. I mean, guys who, if you just hung around with them, you couldn't help but learn what this is all about.
So you really got into basketball.
And I was really into the tournament. And then when I was a junior at St. Joe's, you know, we got in under Jim Lynam, had the memorable upset of DePaul.
That was 81, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm. And I remember to this day thinking it'd be great if we were an 8 or a 9, because then if we won, we'd get a chance to pull the big upset.
You were way ahead of your time.
And people looked at me like, well, they kind of look at me like that way now.
Right.
But I said, no, we can't win the national championship.
But
we can have a moment. I mean, the old East Coast Conference, you know, people forget, it was Temple of Sound St. Joe's, but I mean, it was Westchester, Lafayette, Bucknell. Think about it. Westchester was a Division I basketball school in the same league as we were.
Right.
It just wouldn't happen these days.
So that's when you got the bite, so to speak.
For the bracket.
For the brackets.
Correct.
And it evolved to the time, now let's fast forward a little bit, a few more years, maybe 10 years or so, and you're working at St. Joseph's.
Yep, I'm back at St. Joe's.
Dom DeJulia is the athletic director, and pick up the story from there.
So the A10, Atlantic 10 Women's Championship Tournament was being held at the old field house on Hawk Hill. And, you know, it was, I don't know, lunchtime on a weekday. And there was some games going on. It didn't involve any of the local schools. And Don said, oh, you know, we got some sandwiches, come on over. And we sit there, and Don just, because Don has got almost everything in his pocket. You know, 40 tickets to the Final Four, loaves and fishes. I don't know how he does it, but he had the principles and procedures for the selection.
So he knew the method to the madness.
Well, they're published.
Right.
You know, they were published. Okay. And he's got an easel and a Sharpie and a whiteboard. And so we sit there and we're eating lunch, and we start selecting at-large teams for that season. I want to say it was, I don't know, 92 or 93. Like, Duke was really good. So it was probably Leitner, Hurley, Grant Hill.
No-brainer there.
Yeah, right. And 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, we're still looking at RPIs.
Trying to get down to that number 16 seed in each bracket.
Right. And I was just fascinated by the process. And it wasn't a year in which St. Joe's was involved. It was John Chaney time at Temple. They were really good. So it was like McKee, Jones, Brunson. They were the big dog in the Big Five at that time, as I recall. And what I remember about it was I think their RPI was 6th in the country. And that year they got a 4 seed at the old Cap Center in Landover.
Oh, okay.
So that would have been 94. That was 94 because they played Drexel.
I remember that.
Right? And then they ended up playing Indiana in the next round, if I'm not mistaken, and losing. But I couldn't understand, if RPI was so important, how the team ranked 6th in the RPI could only be a 4 seed.
And what was it? Why was that? Because
the
of
committee
strength of
was
schedule?
Oh. The committee was wrong.
It's always the committee.
Right. I couldn't have made a mistake, Harry.
You had everything. You were, well.
No, but then I realized there was more to it than just one number. Sure. Right, so who did they play? What was it? You know, all the things that are now second nature to the conversation.
So now we go, was it ESPN got in touch with you? You got in touch with them? How did that all work out?
It was a little of both.
Because nobody was doing this.
Nobody was doing it. But I was involved in an outfit called the Blue Ribbon Yearbook, which was and still is, a preseason annual. You know, it was like the thick one that the
picking out the top teams
got. Right, like it wasn't like Street and Smith's where you'd get a paragraph on, you know, St. Joe and a paragraph on LaSalle.
It was in depth.
And 2 paragraphs on Villanova if they were good.
Right.
You know, and we added around that time a postseason edition. So this was 95 into 96, and that required kind of guessing at the field in advance. And we wanted ESPN to be a partner with us and kind of promote our publication during championship week. And it kind of became like, all right, well, we'll do that if you give us your projections, Joe, in advance for this weird thing called the internet.
That was just
it had just become more popular. ESPN's site, it wasn't even called ESPN.com, it was called Sports Zone. And I like to jokingly say, you know, Al Gore invented the internet so that bracketology could have a home. Right.
And did it take off?
I think
that first year?
I think we got 250,000 hits in the first 45 minutes. And somebody went,
that's taken off.
Somebody went, maybe there's something to all this bracket
And how
stuff.
far before the tournament, the actual selection Sunday, were you posting things on that internet site?
In the early years, it was just February. Okay. It was not like
preseason.
Like now.
Right. 250,000 hits in the first 45 minutes. It's up online. Are you kidding me?
Right.
So somebody in Bristol said, whoa!
Yeah, and of course, I was too dumb to think, you know, maybe getting paid by the click would be a good idea.
Right.
But nobody really works that way in online
publishing. The name bracketology, do you own that patent?
I don't, because the way it works at ESPN is if it's on their air, they own it. Okay. And I'm okay with that because the platform is theirs. But our friend Mike Jensen from the Inquirer called me a bracketologist in an article in the late 90s, quoting me about Temple's chances. I remember I was on the floor, on the court after a game in one of our favorite places, the Riley Center in Olean.
Been there.
And Temple was playing somebody else in the A-10, won a big road game that I guess, in that put him on the good side of the bubble, and he needed a quote. And my phone rang. I was walking to the bus out of the Riley Center. I give him the quote, and he says, "What do I call you?" And I said, "I don't know, just make something up."
And he did.
And he did.
Bracketologist.
And here we are.
That's amazing. All right, more to come with the bracketologist, Joe Lunardi. And, well, let's set this up.
Okay.
Because when we come back, we're going to take a break from basketball and brackets and head out to the golf course.
Great.
For one of your memorable shots here at Lanark. Let's put it this way. It took him one swing, and he put a big one on the card. Joe Lunardi takes us back to that shot heard round Havertown when we come back on Inside Golf. All right, Joe, well, this is the hole, number 12 at Lanark.
Mm-hmm.
This is the club. It's been hit a few times since.
And before.
And before. A Cobra, what is that, baffler?
It's the old Billy Baru for hybrids.
31 degree. And here's the golfer, the guy that made it happen, an historic shot in the history of Lanark Country Club. Let's not overdo it.
Where's the plaque?
Let's not overdo it. It's coming.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
How many years ago?
It'll be 3 years in June. It was our qualifying day.
Wow.
Like it was a real count every shot.
Crowded. All everybody.
Packed.
Guys are
It was
putting out
packed.
all over the place, teeing off. And it was a famous foursome.
Well, it was, except, let's see, Marty Farrell, a great hawk, our VP of development, his brother-in-law, John McGeever, and some Martelli guy.
Oh,
I don't remember his first name.
Coach, right?
Yeah, didn't he win?
What was it? Paul?
Wait,
Phil.
And he was
Martelli.
going to be the Big Five Coach of the Year, but then he gave it away? Oh, brother.
Good act of kindness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was Phil.
I don't ever
Phil being
get
Phil.
Yeah, and just for the record, I don't ever get mistaken for Jay Wright.
So like I said,
I think it happens to Phil quite a bit.
I don't know about that either. Okay, so the whole play, today it's playing about 140, but with the wind and a little bit of elevation, maybe a 150 shot.
Mm-hmm.
You were a few paces back.
It was
that
about
day.
165, so I hit my light hybrid that day. Actually hit it a little bit thin.
Well, we're going to try to reenact.
Oh, gosh.
We're going to turn the clock back.
Oh, great.
If we can. What do you got there today?
Well, I got a 7 and a new 7. I didn't have these irons then. And these are about a club and a half longer. So this is my 150 club.
All right. Now, they even tried to prevent this from happening today because they just aerated the green this morning. Timing is everything. But, Joe, there's a hole out there someplace, as they say.
They want me to fly it in.
You're not going to get any gentle rolls.
No, probably not.
Right.
This is a special limited edition hawk ball, Harry. Now,
Hawk ball.
We know the hawk balls fly further.
They do.
Because, the constant.
And they never die until they're in the hole.
They only die in the hole. That's right.
There you go. Uh-oh. Hold on. Draw a little bit.
Be the right
Just a
stick.
little bit.
Wow.
Too much club. You're
I'm
getting
a little,
older.
I'm a little juiced.
You're getting older, but you're getting stronger. That was a great shot.
Better golfing through technology.
But you know what? That's a tough putt, isn't it?
Oh, that is
And
a three-putt spot.
We're not going to even attempt for the birdie here because of the aeration and everything. But boy, that was really well done.
Not terrible.
Under the pressure of
Not
the
terrible.
spotlight. Huh?
On the green, I'll take it.
He went right for it, folks, just like he does in bracketology and on Hawks basketball. Joe doesn't cut any corners. He just goes right there.
Can you believe we get paid for this?
Unbelievable.
It is a beautiful country.
Boy, that was a good reenactment. You almost got it there. That was a
tell you
pretty
what,
good shot.
I'm pretty happy at this point of the season. A, airborne. B, mostly straight. and see that the grass plugs kept the ball on the green.
That's right. Yeah, we know it can slope from back to
No
front
kidding.
real easily. Just let's go back a little bit. We began earlier in the show talking about bracketology. In '04, of course, you're doing the games for St. Joseph's on radio. It's a perfect season. You have them #1 seed, even far out from the tournament, obviously, because of how well Jameer Nelson and all those guys were playing. And Billy Packer, who was then the #1 analyst for CBS television with Jim Nantz, well, let's put it this way. He didn't agree with you, did he? All the way up to that Elite Eight game a weekend at the Meadowlands.
Yeah, I think there just wasn't a very good understanding at that time of how teams that were outside the quote-unquote BCS, now we say Power Five conferences, could really be good at a national level. And it was just ironic coming from him because he played at a time when it happened all the time. And if you don't believe that, just go in the men's grill here at your club and ask the guys who played in that era, and they'll tell you how great they were.
Exactly.
Right?
And we saw it again this year with Villanova winning the national championship. But you and
It's
Billy,
not
did you and
football.
Billy ever have direct contact, or was it?
Well, it was Phil who called him out, pretty famously with, maybe a word we won't use. And then Billy and I had a moment or two at the Meadowlands where, ironically, playing Wake Forest, his alma mater in the Sweet 16, because you can't make this stuff up, right? And the Hawks win. Chet Stakaitis takes a pass off the backboard from Jameer in the last few minutes and puts us up 2. Hawks win by 4 and go on to the Elite Eight. And, of course, that great game against Oklahoma State. Look, you can do this job a lot of ways. You can kind of not take yourself that seriously and understand that what we do for at least part of our living is really pretty much a blessing. Or you can be Billy Packer. I'm going to choose Burger B.
I forget, did he ever, even after the game came down to
No.
the final shot for the final, admit that maybe Lunardi knew something that I didn't know?
No, it wasn't me. It was disrespecting, St. Joseph's and schools like us. I mean, how many Butlers, George Masons, and Gonzagas do we need? Yeah, well.
All right, final thing we're going to talk about. I know you have thousands of Twitter followers. Tell me the story, though, about Twitter hair. What's that all about? Or Joe Lunardi hair on Twitter?
This is not something that comes easily. But this is real hair, people, okay? But for a month or two on ESPN, not this season, the season before, somehow it became a thing that it was, a hairpiece. And I'm on TV one night, and admittedly, it was a bad comb-over. It was kind of the first communion look. It was not a good look. I get this text from my youngest daughter around midnight, and she says, "Dad, your hair is trending on Twitter." And I'm thinking to myself, that's probably not a good thing. So then, we start making fun of it on TV. Miles Simon, and pull my hair. Scott Van Pelt does a Sports Center poll. 11,000 people voted, and 9,000 said it was fake.
Joe, you've come a long way.
But it's really not.
From those days doing Hawk Talk
That's right.
with Phil Martelli to your hair
This
trending.
show's way better than that.
Hair trending
Way
on
better.
Twitter. We're not trending at all. Maybe we will now. Back to wrap it up with Joe Lunardi and Joe Lunardi. Welcome back to Inside Golf. It is time to get ready to tee it off. This is our teed off segment, and our panelists today here at the beautiful Valley Forge Casino Resort, Harry Mays, who holds down fort 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. weekdays on 97.5 The Fanatic. And from myphillygolf.com, the distinguished, notice that little mustache, and what is that, a full beard you're working on? Joe Logan. We'll get into the
I
beard and
shaved,
everything.
I just didn't stand as close to the razor.
I got you. This is a Ryder Cup year, gentlemen, and it will be played in Minnesota. Where is it, Harry? Chaska?
Chaska, Minnesota.
Which is Hazeltine. And it hasn't been the most favorable of events for American golf fans over the past, going back to '99, they've only won it twice since then. Most recently was, what, '08, I believe. But there's always this year. Although Danny Willett recently, when he won the Masters, gave the Euros another shot in the arm. In fact, Joe, what is it now? The last time I checked, top rankings of golfers in the world, 6 of the top 10
Are foreigners.
are foreigners.
4 of them are Europeans.
Will probably be at Hazeltine. It's not a good sign for the Americans, Harry.
No, it's not. I mean, you know, you got Rory McIlroy, of course, Danny Willett coming off the Masters win, emerges. Justin Rose is playing really well. You know, this is something that where the United States, with Phil getting older, Tiger, you know, in his physical state, a lot of these young guys, albeit talented, are still rather inexperienced or have never really felt the Ryder Cup. I mean, you have to give European team a distinct advantage, even though it's on American soil, in my view.
You mentioned Phil, and of course, you all know, wouldn't that be ironic that Phil's last big moment at a Ryder Cup ended with him blasting his captain, Tom Watson, and never to be seen again until he becomes a captain someday?
That will happen. That would be a sad state of affairs. Right. He needs, you know, I hope he qualifies for the team. I hope he's there. I'd like to see him have one last hurrah in the Ryder Cup. It would be good for the game, good for golf, certainly good for Phil.
I don't keep up on all this stuff. I'm sure you keep up with it more. Davis Love III is the team captain. Correct. He's been there before.
He was the losing captain at Medina the last time.
Oh, yeah.
If you recall, the Americans were winning big time going into the final day Sunday and managed to lose almost all the singles matches and lost the Ryder Cup. It was the most deflating loss in recent memory, certainly.
More deflating was the fact that Rory McIlroy almost missed his tee time and went
right.
out and won his match.
That's right.
Without even warming up, maybe a couple swings on the practice range. Harry, what I was going to get to, you know, we talked about Mickelson and his points that he made about the pods and all that, getting guys to play with guys who are comfortable, and he thought Watson could have done a better job at chemistry. Does that mean that Davis Love gets the stamp of approval, even if Phil doesn't play, that he's going to mirror what Phil had to say, or is Davis going to do it his way?
I think you'd have to adopt some of what Phil's suggestions were. I think some of the stuff that he said was dead on, but you know, if Phil's going to make the team, it's pretty much sure he's going to need a new partner because Keegan Bradley is not on his way to making the Ryder Cup, and they had such a good pairing, you know, for a couple of years. I mean, right now you look at what Jordan Spieth and Patrick Reed, you know, look to be, you know, they had some, you know, good, big success and some good chemistry. You got to develop that chemistry because I think that's one of the things for many years that Europe has had over the United States. The United States have been a lot of singles guys, not a team atmosphere, and I think that's been proven that that's helped Europe significantly.
And don't expect Tiger Woods to be there except in the role of being an assistant captain or something.
Ambassador, cheerleader. Another veteran who may not be there is Jim Furyk, who's been one of the bulwarks of the team for years.
You've got Davis Love III, and then on the other side, the Euros, you got Darren Clark. And Darren Clark is going to have to make some captain's picks. And there's a guy who's not ranked in the top 50, but he had a real good Masters recently by the name of Lee Westwood, and he's known to have thrown a few pints down with Mr. Clark. And if he plays the way he did at Augusta through the season, I would think he's going to work his way onto that roster.
You know, Darren Clark has already stated publicly that he's probably going to lose some friends with his captain's picks, which is going to be fun to watch.
Well, one that he could potentially lose too, and has been a fan favorite, Harry, is Ian Poulter.
Well, yeah, the fan favorite of the Europe side. He's been the thorn in our side, but I think regardless of where he is in world rankings, you have to put him on the team.
Really?
I really do. There's something about that event with that guy where he rises to the occasion.
You agree with that? If Poulter...
I agree with everything he said about Ian
pick.
Poulter, but I tell you what, if you're Darren Clark and if you have to reach down too far to take somebody like Poulter, then you're really out on a limb. And Poulter better perform.
You weren't impressed with that second place in Puerto Rico?
You know what? It was good, but...
But he had the lead
right.
going into the last day. Usually that's Ian time.
I know.
And he didn't pull the trigger. We'll see what happens. Hazeltine in the fall, another Ryder Cup. And we'll be back more Inside Golf in just a moment. The Valley Forge Casino Resort is the region's only full amenity gaming resort. And it's only seconds from the Pennsylvania Turnpike at King of Prussia. It features 600 slots, 50 table games, and there are nearly 500 guest rooms, plus 8 restaurants designed to meet all of your dining needs. So put the beautiful Valley Forge Casino Resort on your destination list.
I knew I wanted to be like my dad and be a PGA member. Following him around as a kid, I would get to see the players. I didn't really know them, but they knew me because I was Davis's son. You know, we lost him too early. Coming up the 18th fairway at Winged Foot, knowing that I'd won the PGA Championship, and then to see the rainbow, and everybody associated that rainbow with my dad watching over me. I'd like to thank him for just instilling in me what it means to be a professional and be a PGA member.
The best stories end in thanks. Share your story at ThanksPGAPro.com.
At the first tee, they're teaching us how to set goals. It doesn't matter how big or small they are.
I want to break 80 someday.
My goal is to go to college.
Someday, I'm going to be the 4th female president of the United States. Maybe 5th.
Some of the best golf lessons have very little to do with golf. The life skills young people learn at the first tee stay with them long after they leave. Visit thefirsttee.org to learn more.
One of my goals is to get on TV. Check.
Well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of Inside Golf here at Lanark with Joe Lunardi. Joe, you know, bracketology ends, I guess, once Selection Sunday comes around. And then what? Within days, you got it up and rolling for the next season.
They let me take the whole tournament off.
How
and
about
then
that?
And then we put up a bracket for next year, usually the Tuesday or Wednesday after the championship game. And I'll give you a hint. Villanova's still really good.
There you go, Nova fans. Nova Nation's going to be glad to hear that. Joe, thanks.
Oh, my pleasure.
Our thanks also to Chris Wilkinson, head professional here at Lanark, for helping us enjoy the day here at beautiful Lanark with the bracketologist, the hole-in-one man, Joe Lunardi. I'm Harry Donahue. Remember, no matter how bad it's going for you out there, don't pick up. Fill out those brackets often. We'll see you next time right here on Inside Golf. Inside Golf, presented by Destination Montco Golf. 54 courses, 300,000 yards. Check them out at montcogolf.com. By Jersey Man Magazine, it's a Jersey way of life. And Philly Man Magazine, bringing it to Broad Street. By Golf Performance Institute, GPI, better training, better athletes, better golfers. And by the Philadelphia Section PGA, experts in the game and business of golf. Take time to thank your local PGA golf professional.